In this video, I'm going to break down how much money I made this year as a songwriter. I'm hoping to open up a dialogue about the music business and where things are at right now. I know things seem a little crazy these days. I wanted to talk about some of the great things that have happened this year, as well as some of the not so good things, and how I'm thinking about moving into next year and beyond to hopefully have a fulfilling career as a musician. I was inspired to make this video because of another creator named Dev Lemons, who was sharing some of her experience about going on tour and some of the finances that were involved with it, and I thought, why not? Let me open up about how much money I made this year as a musician, an artist, a songwriter, and at the very least serve as a document for how things are going right now. If you're new here, my name is Nick. I'm a singer and songwriter living in Los Angeles, and on this channel I share bits of my life here in LA, as well as my creative journey. Given how much the music business feels like it's been changing lately with AI, some of the SAG and writer strikes that were happening this year affecting TV and film production, and what's going on with Spotify royalties, it felt like as good a time as any to make a video about money and music. In each section of this video, I'm going to explain kind of the revenue source that I'm talking about, where this money is coming from in my total accounting for the year, of how much money I made, and then I'm going to talk about how much money I did make in that category and why I think the number might be high or low given some of the things that have been going on this year. And at the very end of the video, I'm going to share some ways in the past that I've made money as a musician. Maybe you're just getting started and you're looking for some inspiration there, as well as some of the projects that I'm thinking about going into the new year that have me excited, not just from a revenue perspective, but most importantly, from an artistic perspective. So let's get into it. The first and most obvious way that I make money as a musician, and I think everybody falls into this camp, is through royalties. These are usually what we think about when an artist gets a stream on Spotify or a download, or somebody buys a CD or a vinyl record or something. These are royalties for the music itself. Now, I have two types of royalties that I collect as an artist. Some are for songs that I did everything for. This is like me writing the lyrics, singing, editing, coming up with the beat, playing all the parts, recording them, editing them, all of that. I'd say that like half of my catalog kind of falls into that camp, where I was involved in all of the parts of making the music, and I uploaded it to the internet through DistroKid or AWAL or TuneCore, one of those distributors, and then anytime somebody listens to it or downloads it, I get paid. The next type of royalty that I also collect for songs that I was involved in are ones where I'm just a collaborator, usually as a vocalist or as a songwriter. A producer or another artist came to me and said, hey, do you want to work on this project together? And I said, yep, definitely, that sounds like a lot of fun. And then if you look up my name on Spotify, you'll see that I was a collaborator on a number of songs. And in those cases, those songs get released with record labels, independent or major record labels, and I get royalties from them every quarter or twice a year. A side note is that I collect all of these royalties through a number of different ways. Sometimes I'm able to log into my DistroKid account and just withdraw all of the money that Spotify and iTunes and Apple Music and all of them have paid to me. And then other times I have to log into an accounting software that the record label uses. And they all kind of use a little bit different software, but they all generally work the same way, where you can see how many streams or how much activity a song has had over a certain time period and how much money the label thinks they owe you. And if you have any thoughts or complaints about that, you can reach out to them and say, hey, I think this song had more plays than you are saying here. What's the deal? And can I get paid properly? Royalties like this for people streaming my music are not that much, even though they account for a lot of listens or plays in a year. As an actual revenue source, they're quite small. I think all artists are familiar with that, but music fans, I think, are learning that more and more recently, that Spotify and Amazon Music and all of those platforms just really don't pay a huge royalty. So on the back end, a large number of streams may not add up to that much money. This year in total, I made about $750 from royalties from these two different sources, both people listening to my original music and then songs that I collaborated on with other people. That is in total probably about 2 million streams. I don't have a way way to know that number exactly, but I can kind of infer it from seeing some of the reports that I get from different labels or distributors that have my song around the world. The next revenue source that I want to talk about are upfront royalties. Now, similar to getting paid, as I was describing with you listen to the song on Spotify and I get paid, sometimes an artist that I collaborate with or another producer that I work with is more interested in paying upfront a flat fee to have me sing on a song or collaborate with them on the song, just so that they can own all of the royalties on the back end. If an artist really believes in the project, it might be very advantageous for them to try and buy out the rights of a singer or a songwriter, just so they can protect themselves in the case that a song does really well. In the past, I've gotten paid anywhere from about $300 to, I'd say, about $1,000 to sing on a song. All right, next, let's talk about sync music and sync licensing. Sync music just means any music that is getting synchronized to a TV show, film, video game, or some sort of audio-visual project. It's a very fancy way of saying that I sometimes license my songs to TV shows and films. Now, this year saw a huge slowdown in the number of TV shows and films that were getting produced. There was a huge writer's strike and SAG-AFTRA strike that affected the entire industry. And what that meant is there were kind of trickle-down effects where musicians were no longer able to generate revenue from placing their songs in TV shows. And sync music, for me, is usually my biggest source of revenue. So this year, things definitely changed as the entire industry shut down. Because I'm not signed to a record label or have a publishing deal of some kind, it means that all of the songs that I produce and sing and make on my own are eligible for sync placement. Over the years, I've probably had about 60 or 70 songs in different TV shows and movies on Netflix and MTV and Apple and you name it. I've definitely been on a few seasons of Teen Mom, so shout out MTV if you're watching this. I have an agent here in LA who helps me pitch my songs whenever I have new music. I send it to my agency, who is able to send it out to new TV shows to see if it'd be a good fit for the show. Now, for sync music, I get paid twice. I know that might be a little funny to say, but I get paid an upfront fee, which is a license fee to use my recording in a TV show. So my agent helps negotiate that, reaches out. Sometimes if it's a smaller project, it might just be a few $100s, or if it's like a big movie production for like Netflix or something like that, their music budget might be a little larger and they might be able to license the song in different countries or negotiate a higher rate. In addition to that kind of like upfront lump sum fee that I usually get, I also get paid on the back end through my performing rights organization. I'm with an organization called ASCAP. ASCAP, BMI, and SESAC are the three big organizations in the US, and anytime a song gets used in a TV show, at least in the US, the songwriters involved in making that song are also entitled to an additional royalty. So I get paid for the recording from my agent and through that process, through pitching, and then I also get paid a little bit of money every time that TV show is on the air. Now, as I mentioned, this year was very slow for sync. A little while since I produced new music that has been good for sync, but normally I can rely on a few placements. This year, unfortunately, I only had 2 placements of my songs on TV shows, and this year I made $550. The reason that that number is quite low is because I partnered with collaborators on those songs, and I had to make sure that they also got paid for their time and work. For comparison, it's pretty rare, but a few years ago I had a song placed on a major network and got paid about $5,000 for putting the song onto that TV show. So I was pretty excited about that. But again, those are relatively few and far between. All right, next up, let's talk about ASCAP. I was just talking about ASCAP in the context of sync music and having songs placed on TV shows and being able to collect more additional royalties on the back end. A pretty ongoing and consistent part of my monthly royalties and money that I make from music comes from ASCAP. It's called mailbox money. And as I mentioned, ASCAP is a performing rights organization. And what that means is that they collect royalties on behalf of songwriters anytime a song is played publicly or performed publicly. Now, my songs aren't playing in restaurants all over the world, but sometimes they might show up in a retail store, or they might show up in a social media campaign on a local TV channel or something like that. All of those little plays of my music out in public are entitled to get paid royalties. ASCAP goes out into the world and collects all of those little bits of income, and if I have a good year where my song is getting used on a bunch of different TV shows or in a bunch of different projects, those royalties might start to add up. ASCAP is never my main source of income in a month, but it does tend to add up pretty well. Only this year, I think, has ASCAP been at the top of my best performing revenues this year. Normally it's somewhere in the middle. It's just additional income that shows up every month. ASCAP does pay on a bit of an interesting schedule, so I don't normally get paid for something until about 6 or 9 months after it's happened. So the checks that I'm getting this month are for placements that might have happened earlier this year or even last year, depending on how the network or the organization handles their royalty payments in their negotiations with ASCAP. All right, from ASCAP this year I made $1,800. This is all of my royalties from my song playing on TV shows, on reruns and stuff like that. Some of those restaurants that might have my song on a playlist, on digital radio stations like Pandora or Spotify Radio, where a song might just be on shuffle in a coffee shop or something like that. All of those little royalty sources funnel through ASCAP and end up helping to pay for my phone bill. Now I want to shift over to some ways that I didn't make money this year. Before COVID, I was involved in a few different musical ventures and projects that were generating revenue that I'm not doing anymore, both because I might have gotten burnt out creatively or those opportunities went away with COVID. But the first big hit to my music income came in the form of cover gigs. Before COVID, I was playing cover gigs almost every single weekend. I would book at restaurants, country clubs, at holiday parties, you name it. Anywhere that people needed some music in the background, I was sending emails to those folks to try and book those gigs. Now, this wasn't a bad way to make money. I would usually get paid anywhere from $150 to $250 for a cover gig for about 3 to 4 hours of music, and then also get paid tips. You know, when people request a song or they like what they hear, they come and throw a few dollars in the jar. At that time in my life, this additional income in addition to my job allowed me to get a lot of performance opportunity and really hone my craft in playing live and trying to keep an audience engaged. But after doing it for a little while, I kind of got burnt out being on the road every single weekend, driving a few hours to different restaurants in parts of Florida where I was living at the time, trying to play all of these places for what at the end of the month really only amounted to like $1,000 or $2,000. Another way that I also made money from playing live was playing weddings. Now, I hadn't gotten married myself yet at the time when I first started playing at weddings, but it was a steep learning curve. However, weddings pay a whole bunch of money. I think that a large part of that, though, is because of the stress that comes with playing at weddings. You have to show up early, you have to be wearing a suit and tie or a nice outfit of some kind. There's a whole bunch of extra work that goes into playing at a wedding, and even though I was making anywhere from $500 to $1,000 to play at like a cocktail hour, or when somebody was walking down the aisle, I would learn the songs that they wanted to hear while they walked down the aisle. Even though the $500 to $1,000 was nice, a lot of weddings ended up being in the summer in Florida, and the temperature was really just too much for me to handle. And like I said, the stress of always being like having to play perfectly when you're playing at a wedding to make somebody's big day really special, that stress over and over and over again starts to add up. And even though I really relied on that before COVID, after COVID hit, I realized that I didn't really like playing weddings, even though towards the end of the year, they did add up to a lot of money in my music making fund. All right, to wrap up this video, I wanted to talk about some of the things that I'm thinking about going into the new year that are on my horizon that I'm excited about. First, I want to start playing live again. It's been a little while since I played live as an artist, getting out on the road with my friends and putting gigs and shows together. But now that I've been writing a whole bunch of new material this year, I'm really excited about taking that and bringing it out into a live environment, both solo and maybe even with a band. Now, revenue and money and all of that is pretty far from my mind when I'm getting back out and playing shows. However, in the past, whenever I've played shows, I've usually been able to sell t-shirts or merch after the shows end and keep some of that money or share it with the band that I played with that night to put a little money in the bank account. I think to really make money as a live artist, you need to have either a big draw or the ability to put an event together that is attractive for other bands to play and people will want to come to, not just because there's music happening that night, but because it's an event or something fun to spend an evening doing. So I'm thinking about playing live. Something else I'm thinking about is ramping up some of the vocal work and songwriting work that I do. This year was pretty enlightening about all of the different artists that I got to work with and see how they work with different songwriters and producers to finish songs. And so I'm excited about getting back into the studio to collaborate with tons of other producers and artists and pitch vocals or songs that I'm working on to collaborate with people all over the globe. And finally, my last thing that I'm thinking about going into the new year is, of course, this YouTube channel. This YouTube thing is a little new to me, but I've been excited about starting a channel for a little while. I know that there's ad revenue and sponsorship opportunities that come with YouTube, but I don't want that just yet. I'm more focused on building a community of people and starting a dialogue about what's going on in the world around us, either in the music industry, in our artistic and musical communities, and the world around us. So this year, I'm hoping to share more parts of my journey and what's on my mind on this YouTube channel, and hopefully inspire someone out there to do the same. If you're brave enough to share how much money you made as a musician this year, please leave a comment down below, and I'd love to break down any parts of this that might be helpful if you're thinking about getting into sync or some other area of music, and I can answer any questions. Let me know. As always, thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate you being here, and I hope I see you in the next video.